let's welcome Jeff to the show. Jeff Kranzler, here you go. He's Jeff is. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself? You do some social work, you do all sorts of stuff, and now you've taken it all together and you said, "Hey, I'm going to write this Crimson Protector book for my kids." I mean, is that kind of the story? Is that your origin story? Talk to us.
Yeah, let me tell you about my origin story. I was walking down an alley after watching The Mark of Zorro and with my two parents.
Dude. How will
this go?
What I don't understand about Batman, who Geekscapists who know the show know is one of my least favorite, maybe my least favorite hero. But was it called Crime Alley before they walked down it or afterwards? Because if it was called Crime Alley before they took the shortcut, it's on them. How did Thomas Wayne amass any of that wealth and not lose it? Because that is the dumbest thing to possibly do. We are leaving the theater. Let's take a left down Crime Alley.
Listen, the thing that I need to know anytime a Batman movie or TV show comes on, I need to know whether or not Thomas and Martha Wayne actually died down that alley. I need to see that every single time we do a Batman. Otherwise, how will we know Batman came to be?
Yeah. I'm guessing you don't have the same origin story, Jeff. But if you do, I'm really sorry for how insensitive that all came off.
Wow, what a way to put foot in mouth is really. I know. So, but similar to Batman's story, mine starts in crime-ridden New York in 1988. All right. So we're about to move out of New York, and we're going to visit Central Park for probably the last time in a while. And in Central Park, there is somebody dressed up as Spider-Man. Now, I'm 6 years old, and I don't remember the details. It could be somebody who was doing cosplay, somebody who was selling something, or most probably it was the 80s in New York, so it was somebody who was trying to mug us, and probably effectively did. But I was taken by that. I was so taken by it. And from that day, I moved to North Jersey after that, so wow, long trip. And I did not stop collecting comic books until I started dating, in which case I at least hid it a little bit.
It was a detriment.
It worked against me. So I hid it, and then I got married, and then it came back because it was too late. But I have always loved comic books and the ability to put on a mask, ability to be somebody, not who you are, but who you want to be. And I think that's one of the biggest powers of comic books. And so I'm a therapist, like you said. I'm a social worker. I work with kids who are anxious, who have social anxiety, who deal with bullying. And I teach skills all day, every day. It's wonderful. It's nice. But kids know they're being taught skills. And I said to myself, hold on a second. What if I could communicate skills, not through a therapeutic means, but by a natural means, through a reading. And whenever you read something good, you're not just reading it, you're living it. And what if kids, instead of me, sitting there teaching them, what if they connected with a character, lived the character's mistakes, and lived the skills that the character uses to overcome the social anxiety, the lack of confidence, how to handle bullying, and through a superhero motif, like that's combining everything put together. So it's in 2008, yes, 12 years ago. I started to put this together, and I was awful at it. I was just bad. It was not a good product. And it was preachy. It was uninteresting. And I worked with friends. I worked with editors. I attended every conference I possibly could find. And I worked with middle school readers. And this is a book mainly aimed to tweens and teens, so pre-middle school, slightly post-middle school. And got it to a point where I was getting the kind of feedback that I wanted, the kind of feedback where adults were saying, wow, this is really awesome. And more importantly, kids were saying, wow, this is really, really awesome. And getting to that point basically got me to a point when I was at that point and I was getting back from teachers and social workers and parents and kids. And I was like, now I'm ready. Now I was able to communicate these skills in a ridiculously fun way that kids are not realizing that they're getting these skills as they follow and live the Crimson Protector superhero adventure.
Well, I think that's the way to do it. You're kind of giving a little bit of the sugar with the medicine on this one, and you have the. I mean, I don't want to say like you have the audience right there that you have them captive, and you know, you've definitely violated many HIPAA violations in doing that, but. I'm kidding.
Man, well, it was a nice career while it lasted. But you know what?
but having worth it. Yeah, no, but you have the kids, you know these kids, but even being so drenched and versed in your own profession, like it's tough to then go and open up those creative doors. And I think that we do love the romantic idea of creators just having these stories come to them, and you know, Stan Lee weaving the building blocks of the Marvel universe within 3 years is like the idea that we all have of the early 1960s. But in honesty, I think that these characters live with us for so long that they start to they're kind of born from those needs that we had, that like you talked about, and these are needs that kids have. These are needs that you're seeing addressed every day in your profession. And then you kind of worked yourself into a corner. It had to be a superhero book because those were the needs that needed to be addressed, were the needs that that your character deals with. The process of 12 years, I think that's quick as far as being a creator is concerned.
And especially like this is a solid book as well. This is not like just a comic book that you can flip through in like a couple of minutes. Like this is a full story that's fully rounded out. And how great to have a character that you can look up to, but is also not an unobtainable type person, like someone that has every power in the universe and is completely unbeatable. You know,
yeah, what are his powers? There are no powers. It's just straight up like Nightwing style vigilantism, right?
Absolutely. I think Nightwing is more skilled. I think just about Kite Man is a little bit more skilled. I think any superhero is more skilled. You know, the way this happens is that one of the key things in building confidence this character learns is that you've got to do something that you love, that you're good at, and that makes a difference in the world. So this character loves gymnastics, loves working out, and says, okay, listen, I'm good at gymnastics. I'm good at working out. And frankly, the kid loves to sew. Put it all together. What am I going to do? Of course you're going to be a superhero. How else are you going to make a difference in the world?
I just love that he's also not good at getting himself killed, because any of the rest of us would have gotten ourselves killed within night one.
Yes.
Well, if you don't have the building blocks to get to that point, Jonathan.
The gymnastics took care of that. Like not getting killed in gymnastics was his training for not getting killed out in the middle of the street.
Oh, it wasn't the gymnastics. It was walking out of gymnastics where everybody was threatening to beat the stuffing out of him for being in gymnastics. That saved him.
When did the book come out, Jeff?
It came out on August 30th.
Okay, so this is like a fresh book, and it's like perfect for hopefully not kids entirely going back to school. We're still living in a virus, but it's time to go back and keep reading. How's the response been? I know that it's only been 2 or so weeks. Like, how's the response been from people outside of that first like circle of research that you had of people that you'd given the book to early?
Well, I'm really loving the feedback, and the feedback's making it all worthwhile. That I didn't jump early on it, that I waited until it was where it was at. I'm getting feedback from adults who are reading the book who are enjoying it. A lot of hidden Easter eggs in there about a bunch of things, but the best part is, and I had a couple of stories where friends of mine told me about their kids. The kids have a lot of trouble focusing on anything, and they zip through the book. And that for me is like, don't focus on anything, don't focus on book, and then reading that. I don't care about anybody else. If you struggle to read, if you have no interest in it, and my book makes you go through it, yeah, that's all I need. We're good. Check, please. I'm done.
Yeah.
Who's the real hero, Jeff? The Crimson Protector or Jeffrey? You get the kids to read.
Jeff.
I remember being in middle school and just being into books like this, or actually not knowing. I mean, we had the 4-color funnies, like we had the actual comic books, and that's what we read. But I don't think there were really superhero novelizations for people in middle school. You know, I think just in the explosion that happened in the 90s of, you know, seeing these characters finally ending up on the big screen and like the transmedia marketability that came with it, you start to see like, oh, maybe we can make book adaptations out of this stuff, or, you know, run young readers out of this. I don't necessarily remember too much, even in like 89, the craziness of that Batman, that Tim Burton Batman merchandising, that you get anything really aimed at young readers. We all kind of had to read like the pre-Dane novels. Remember that, the Black Cauldron and all those like fantasy books, and like I guess Harry Potter would be the equivalent today. But Harry Potter, read by a lot of middle schoolers, is still a pretty dense text, and it gets denser as the series continues. You've got something that if kids are actually pretty ambivalent to reading, they can pick it up, and it's not that threatening. This is not 200, 300 pages.
Absolutely. This is a much smaller book than Harry Potter. Working with doing a lot of fighting about the actually as minute details as the size of the lettering and the style of the lettering and the columns, and that all was for the purpose of somebody just. And the cover of the book. So I worked really hard. I hired the artist that I wanted. I really found an amazing artist, and I focused on making this book something that would not turn people off. It would be readable. So so just making it really exciting, and not something that people are scared to read, scared to pick up, but really something that is not threatening, and something that works.
That's fantastic. Okay. And who are the superheroes that you were a little bit more influenced by growing up?
So for me, of course, it always was Spider-Man, and it always was there. It started that way, and really about the kid. It was the kid who didn't win all the time, who wasn't super all the time, who wasn't invulnerable, and most of the time ended up getting his rear end handed to him in a fight and skirting his way out. That was huge. I think in more later on, I was really taken by Daredevil. And the reason I love Daredevil is the ability to say that what most people think is a disability is actually a strength. And I work with that all the time. I work with a lot of kids who have autism, and everybody thinks that that's a disability, and that's not. It's a neurological difference that is a huge superpower. It is the ability to incredibly focus on something for extended amount of time that you love without getting distracted from that thing. There are other things that come with it, challenges, but it is a superpower. So and the other piece about Daredevil that I love is just tossing himself off of a building, knowing that no matter what, you're going to find a flagpole or a sill or a pigeon or something that you're going to bounce off of. And it's that superb confidence that no matter what, you're going to land on your feet.
I love that.
He's got complete 360 degrees, like sight. And that's the thing. Like if you or I were to run towards the edge of a building, we can't see any of the things beneath it. We don't know that flagpole's there. We don't know that you're going to jump off of like a tarp or something or a clothesline. Daredevil can see in all directions at once, and that's the one thing that you don't get by just like accepting a straight visual medium like we do. We just look straight. We don't. He's got radar sense.
Yep.
Raymond Russell asks, what would be the youngest end you'd recommend for reading or being read to for your book?
So I think it really depends on the maturity of the reader. I think that there are some really advanced 8 and 9-year-olds who are, and we're seeing this in general, that kids are hitting the middle school social and emotional a lot younger these days. Kids are becoming adolescents a lot younger. And so there are some who can really benefit, I think, who are even younger kids who are, I think, a little bit more advanced can do it. The main target, of course, is tweens, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. But I think as young as 3rd or 4th is the key thing.
Oh, yeah. No, Incelbot's trying to text you.
It's true.
Incelbot might be... And so bots
It's on me, guys. It's on me. I kept making fun of it.
Hey, I'm excited for the second Crimson Protector book where the incel bot starts replicating.
In the Crimson Protector Returns, watch out for him.
Yeah.
Okay.
He gets doxxed. He gets doxxed for telling somebody he liked the Star Wars sequel.
So you talked a little bit about how like kids at a younger age are kind of maturing a little bit faster. What do you attribute that to? Is that more because of like the Zoom culture or just being exposed to things on the internet unwillingly?
Unwillingly. I mean, yeah, I've noticed that.
So
is it incel bot?
I think what people are really seeing now is that exposure to media and to an awareness of things going on has an impact. It has a physiological impact. So if you're constantly exposed to all of the disasters in the world and you have a constant news cycle that you're aware of, if there is frankly more violence and more sex on every single show that you're watching, you know, it's odd to think about it, but it can have physical impact.
Interesting. Oh, that's fascinating.
Where do you stand on this cuties thing? Not that we're going to go down a QAnon rabbit hole, but you know, you have people who want to legislate, like, to protect people from things like that kind of imagery. Like, this is a French movie, I believe, that is on Netflix and has marketing imagery that sexualizes kids. But I think the movie is about the sexualization of kids. It is Dan Cruz, but now you have this uproar. It's become a bit of a lightning rod for people to be like, oh, Netflix supports the sexualization of children or this and that. Like, where do you stand on that? Because I can see where both sides kind of come from.
Well, I happen to fall on the side that's a little bit more concerned about it. The only reason is because I think there are always ways with a good writer. There's always ways to show the things you want to show without being explicit. And there are big problems with explicit and whether that can trigger certain people to act in certain ways. And I'm very big on free speech, but I'm also very big on creative and effective speech. And if that's what, and I haven't watched it, I'm not going to, but I do think that when to convey a message, like I think the strongest portrayals of anything is when you do it in a way that is not direct, but it communicates your ideas so clearly. And I hope that directors who want to communicate those ideas will be able to do that without kind of
exposing
those things. Yeah.
I felt we started down this road with stuff like the Honey Boo Boos or the different, celebrity culture that was really just like some kind of low-rent sexualization of stuff. And I agree with what you said. I think that an interpretive process of metaphor, of art, of showing these things without showing them, of sharing these things and like really expressing these without showing them, I think is more of a challenge to creators. But I think that the results are a little wider reaching. I think that suddenly you have a relatability of art that is not just a blunt force object hitting you in the face, because that has a pretty limited appeal and shelf life. Like, it's like, oh, I know what it is. I don't have to find myself in that art. I know what it is. It just told me without any kind of interpretation or asking anything of me. It just was like, boom, in my face. Cuties. I will not be watching Cuties. I've just been watching Legend of Korra, and Katie's been watching Cobra Kai like there's no tomorrow. I woke up this morning. We talked about this last episode about how Katie had to be watching Cobra Kai. We all love Cobra Kai. I get it. I wake up to a text this morning that Katie's like, I don't know how y'all do it. It's terrible.
I'm sorry. I'm going to be the first to say it. It's bad writing. It's bad. It's not great acting. I won't say it's bad because I'm also an actor and I don't want to judge too harshly, but at the same time, it's not great. And the fact that there's a kid named Kyler makes me want to punch every writer in the face because
maybe he was born in like Utah or something. Where you're like one of these.
No,
yeah,
I think this is what happened.
Utah, but it's like
I think one of the writers had like an enemy that was either named Kyle, and then the other one had an enemy named Tyler, and so they just put Kyle and Tyler together, and they made Kyler. And look, I know I'm already supposed to hate the guy, but like, I hate that name so much.
I saw somebody post that they had named their kids rifle, but the spelling of rifle was like really weird. It was like with a Y and an FEL, and they were trying to make it look like a new age kind of cool hip name while they could. It was still rifle.
Jeff, as a social worker, how much does this really affect kids as they grow up? These kinds of terrible names.
If your name is Rifle, or what happens to you?
Oh man, it's more business for me. So
No. Oh no!
You're like, just send it my way. I got this.
You know what?
We gotta go meet Jeff
in the delivery room. I'll hand out my cards.
Oh, no.
What are you naming your child? Here's my card. Okay, I know you can't. It's like client privilege and all of that, but what's the worst name you've ever heard, Jeff?
I can't.
What's the worst thing you ever heard happen? What's the worst thing a kid's ever told you happened to them, Jeff?
No, not that. I just mean, what's the worst name?
I tell you, there have been some spectacular ones. There have been ones that will be burned into my memory, and if I ever have memory issues when I am 100 years old, I will remember those names. Those will be the few things I'll remember. I'm gonna remember my birthday. I'm gonna remember this or that. I will remember those names. They will stay with me.
I'm excited for the day that like we have Jeff back in, another 80 plus 60 years, and just starts mumbling what sounds like clues to a treasure map, but it's just these horrid names of these kids, and you're like, it must be some place in France. Oh, it's Eastern Europe. It's Eastern Europe. That's a name, but it's just some kid who came in and was like, not good.
It's just hunched everything. Wrench.
Rico says, I'm late. I tried to get caught up and heard a bit of something called Incel Bot. Very on brand. Oh no! And he also suggests that ABCDE is the worst name, pronounced Absidy, but spelled ABCDE. I don't know if that's real or not, but
I mean, there's always those like legends of like names like Shafid, shithead. And all the
parents mess kids up. I mean, I think we can say that without violating any HIPAA stuff, right, Jeff? Like, at what point, and you're a father yourself, at what point do you have to really combat ego in raising a kid to make sure that you're not just completely screwing them up with your own trash? Like, I'm guessing you see a lot of that.
Yeah, that's every single second of every single minute of every single hour of every single day. There's so much. I'm just kidding. Trying to freak out the parents.
I was just gonna say, this is why I don't want to be a parent. This is terrifying.
I think people overestimate the what they can do to mess it. Yes, you can mess things up, but you have to be pretty intense to mess it up a lot. The reality is that kids are born with stuff, and that's where most of the stuff comes from. If you want to blame yourself, most of the time, blame yourself at the point of conception, because it's genetics that cause a whole bunch of it. And what you can do, the only thing you can do is to be there and provide the environment that gives them the best shot to deal with what it is. And by the way, everybody's got something. If you think your kid is this or that, everybody's born with something. And if you ain't born with something, it means you're still born with something. You just haven't discovered what it is yet. So that's our job, parents. Just give that environment to them.
I think my follow-up question is, like, if they are born with this thing, how much further can you artificially push them within like injections or radiation to get them into becoming a superhero, like an X-Men type? Like, at what point do you like, I've already screwed them up pretty bad, better put them
Jeff's
in
already rubbing his eyes.
like what's the story there?
I think according to the American Psychological Association, it's at age 8.5.
No,
to gamma rays.
This DSM,
gamma rays.
No. Bruce Banner has so many daddy issues. This is not good. That being said, the real question to come out of this lunacy that is my brain is, what kind of support, like, or does the character in your book like have? And as you're writing this thing, where are the places where you really want to like veer like wide of saying, okay, I can't do that because Daredevil did that. I can't give him that mentor because that's Stick. I can't give him that person because that's Jarvis, or or that's the Batman story, or this is Spider-Man's Uncle Ben story. Like, what, like, is there a hardship that leads to the Crimson Protector's birth? And again, what is his support network? Does anyone know his true identity?
So, I love the opening line from the 2002 Spider-Man movie that this story, like any story worth telling, is all about a girl. And this is a character who is absolutely smitten and in love. And that's really what middle school is about having your first love, your first infatuation, your first crush.
Oh, I know.
And not being...
And then having her say, suck it.
Oh, my God. Jeff, I remember writing a note, 7th, 8th grade. I remember writing a note with my parents' phone number on it, and like call me I figured I'd be off the bus and home by like 5 o'clock, I guess, or 4, I don't know. And call me, this number, secret admirer. Wrote the note. I put it in her locker. She was in one of my later classes. I get into the classroom. She comes in giddy that she found this secret admirer note in her locker. She like squeals. She runs to her friend and is like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. She's so excited to have a secret admirer. I rush home. I kick my brothers out of my parents' room where they were watching TV. I sit by the phone and it rings. I immediately pick it up and I'm like, hey. And she's like, who's this? And I say my name. I'm like, it's Jonathan. And she goes, oh.
Oh, that's like a bullet.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Of course you do. So does he turn into a villain? Sorry, he turn into a villain, or does he turn into a Crimson Protector? Jeff, what do you think?
Crimson Protector.
I built Geekscape so you will all have a place to go and not become incels yourself. But you know what? For a lot of kids, that rejection hurt. I will tell you this, kids. If you're watching this and something like that happens to you, living well is the best revenge. Because I've told people this, who maybe they're high schoolers or in their 20s and they're out of school or whatever. They're after high school and they're like, man, that stunk. I said, do yourself a favor. Stay in, just keep yourself in shape however you can. Just do some fitness every week and eat well and all that. And then go to your 10-year anniversary reunion. Go to your 20-year reunion. Go to your high school reunions and know that living well is the best revenge. And I just remember my 20-year reunion, that person walking up and saying, hey, didn't we date? And me saying,
nope.
No, we didn't.
Aww.
And we're not going to start now.
Now, what's the healthy way, Jeff?
Everyday training. I'm going to go back to that 20-year reunion, and I'm going to be Zach and Miri's high school reunion.
He's ready for villainhood.
So this drives the character. I mean, you're putting it perfectly, like the intensity of that.
That's a first. Yeah. That's a first.
But the intensity is there. The intensity is there, and so this character says, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So he actually reaches out for a mentor. So not like Stick, but he finds out about a mentoring program in his town, and he says, look, I got to figure this out. I got to figure out how I'm going to ask her out. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. And one of the messages of the book is, kids, if something's going on, don't wait for somebody to notice. Don't wait for somebody to fix it. Go and reach out for support. Go reach out for someone who can help you. And this mentor doesn't know that he's the Crimson Protector. He's not the Crimson Protector yet, but this is the mentor who helps build the confidence, helps get him skills to handle his social anxiety, and then teaches him this lesson, that what's the highest thing that you can do to build your confidence? You can find what you love to do it well, and make a difference in the world. And this character completely and utterly misinterprets that. And this is a really huge part of this book, right? And he screws it up. And totally screws it. And says, okay, well, how do I make a difference in the world? Like I was saying before, okay, so I'm good at gymnastics. I'm getting stronger because I'm working out, and I'm feeling I need to be a superhero. And decides, part of the issue is that this kid is seeing bullying and doesn't have the confidence to stop it. becomes a superhero to stop the bullying by being the superhero who beats the stuffing out of the bully. That's it.
Oh,
that's what he decides to do. Violence.
So
right?
this is the misinterpretation section.
But that's the misinterpretation. You don't want kids to be violent because that's an incel. And as Rico says, just rebrand Geekscape to Incelscape and viewership will double. Geeks are so mid 2000s. Yes. I will never buckle to evil.
Oh boy. That's fascinating. I love that you're taking that approach to it. Please continue.
Because kids have to see things that go wrong rather than just be told it. If an adult in the book says, don't use violence.
Yes.
You have to see a kid using violence and failing at it. And using the wrong way to build confidence and failing at it. And what this character ends up learning and actually connects to the civil rights movement, kind of has exposure to it. And it's from there is inspired how to approach bullying in the right way, and is able to stand up not with a mask, but to stand up peacefully and confidently with others and saying straight to the bully, this doesn't work, and really creating a system where it's not the kids who are being bullied who are being, it also teaches kids who are being bullied how to handle the bullying, but it's focused on the kids who are watching it and how you make a difference without being violent and how you rebuild your confidence without being violent, without needing to put on a mask.
Now, Jeff, you did a lot of this research and know a lot of this stuff from what kids are going through because you were working with them as a social worker. But was there a time that you had to stand up for yourself? I mean, I remember getting my ass beat a few times in high school and middle school, in college and last week. But did that ever happen to you? Did you had to face down a bully or were a bully and realize it was bad? Any of that?
So I think bullying is a part of everybody's life to one degree or another, and
because we read comic books for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I mean we grew up reading comics. I remember that one. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the key piece that I saw was actually not the being bullied, but was actually what kind of led me to all of this is a friend of mine stood up for me in a way that was so brilliant that I was just like, whoa. Okay, so I was this goody two-shoes, absolutely goody two-shoes. And one time, I don't remember why, I get sent to the principal's office. Now, principal's office is all glass at the end of the hall of of the entire classes. So I'm in the principal's office. The entire middle school comes out and is looking at me and is there. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is absolutely ridiculous. And then from the middle of the crowd, one of my friends emerges and single-handedly starts shoving every single kid in the grade backwards and yelling at them and shoving them. And you know what? That one kid made a difference. People actually dispelled. And I was like, if one person can do that, oh my goodness. And even in the bullying prevention work that I do, and I go to schools and I teach them about it, I talk about bullying prevention super soldiers. That there are going to be certain individuals in your school. Everybody plays a role, but there are certain kids who are brave, kids who are generally well liked, and kids who have a very strong moral compass, who will have powers and abilities above and beyond what most middle schoolers will do, because a lot of middle schoolers are scared, and that's fine. It's fine to be scared. There's so many ways to handle it. And if you can identify those Captain Americas, if you can identify who they are and elevate them, train them, and help encourage them to do things, that could be everywhere.
Oh, that's such a great story.
I'm sorry, Katie, but
I was just saying that was great. What about the adults?
It's a great story, but as an adult, once you get out of that structure of school where there are pretty direct penalties to acting out, there's disciplinary action. Once you get into the more grayer areas of adult life in your 20s and your 30s, what about then? How do you become that Captain America now? Does that make sense? Do you become the celebrity who speaks out on social media? Do you become the person who marches? Do you become the person who builds an incel brand called Geekscape to push people to vote? I don't know.
When it comes to, you make a really good point about the incel. No, I'm just kidding. You make a really good point about being an adult and being a superhero yourself, being a super soldier. And there's so many.
You have a lot more to lose. Does that? Do you understand, Jeff? Like, you have a lot more to lose. You may think that you have more to lose as a middle schooler because, oh my God, my life is over now if you have a bad day or a bad hour. But when you start to see that you actually have a professional, social, familial, cultural piece of this fabric, where you like it's your family, your profession, like everything's on the line. Like, it's harder to speak out. Would you say, or easier?
No, I think you're right. I think there's different difficulties at every stage. And I think the one thing that you're making a really good point about is that when you leave school, then there's nobody who's going to send you to detention. And I think that it's the moral compass and the courage that is the same both in middle school and out of school. The ability to say, I am going to, feel consequences. And they're going to be, if you stand up in middle school, there will be social consequences. If you stand up as an adult, there will be a lot of consequences too. If you march, you could be hurt. If you post your opinions supporting people who are being hurt, you can be attacked, and not can, will, as we've seen so much. We've seen all of that, and if you are willing to do that, if you're willing to say, I am willing to suffer the consequences to stand up for what is right, I can tell you that and I deal with depression, I deal with, you know what the biggest way to deal with that is? Do something like that. Live your values. Risk things to stand up for your values and make the world a better place. That is one of the keys, the biggest keys to happiness.
That does sound like a superhero power. I love that.
And that is also why a morally ambiguous Superman, as seen in Zack Snyder's portrayal of the Man of Steel, does not work. He had to leave. By the time he leaves Smallville, Superman is everything morally that John Kent viewed into, that Martha and Jonathan Kent gave him. If he's morally ambiguous as an adult, he becomes a nightmare. He becomes like, oh, I don't know if I should save them or not, or maybe I should snap Zod's neck, and maybe I should, like making. I mean, I'm kind of being honest, like making him morally ambiguous and have that level of doubt of his morality in those movies, I felt was a problem. I mean, I think you can get those morality questions with Batman. I don't think you can get those morality questions with Superman because he is such a good constant, and that is why he can be beaten by those who know that he is just an absolute good. He can be used. And anybody who argues that Superman has no weakness does not realize that Superman has several billion weaknesses. They walk around, they look like us, and that, I mean, so I think what you said is you described, like Katie said, a superhero. You described Superman, but I think that those people do exist. I think that they do exist, and sometimes, like Chris Evans, you accidentally post a picture of a piece of your body on Twitter that gets out, but you're still a good person, and people still love you.
Did you see what he followed it up with? And he's like, well, sorry about that, but all that to say, please vote.
Yeah. Now that I have your attention, I don't know, Geek, if you know this, Chris Evans, our Captain America, accidentally posted a picture of his penis on Twitter or something like that, and the internet did not shame him like it does, like a lot. Like, this is the situation that his friend Scarlett Johansson was in with a nude pictures that ended up on the internet because her phone was hacked or this or that, but people are like, oh my god, and Chris Evans does it, and all I see is, yes please, more of this, and oh my god, I didn't think I'd love him more, and I'm like, damn, the dude could literally do wrong, but he used the attention from it to say, oh, I have your attention.
Right, exactly. Speaking of, I mean, like, it does feel like there are quite a few like adult bullies out there right now. Let's not go into specifics, but at the same time, what do you say in changing somebody's heart who is very clearly like a bully? Like, how would you even approach somebody who's an adult who feels very self-aware but is still just being kind of an ass?
You do the jail yard thing and punching him right in the nose.
You do the verbal equivalent. But I mean that, like, certain people understand certain things, and people who use force, especially nasty verbal force, what you need to do is to be not come at this from the side. Listen, please. You need to be forceful, not to meet the level of nastiness, not to get into a bully fest, but rather to call things out for what they are. And this is, what part of the book is. One of the ways they deal with the bully is the bully gets called out in front of everybody for what they're doing. They don't bully the bully. They don't make fun of the bully. They say, listen, you are doing this. Bully's like, no, I'm not. And then everybody says, yeah, you do that. And as an adult, your job is to verbally stand strong. To stand strong, to be able to say, you go ahead and take it out on me, but I'm not going to be scared to say what I need to say, and I'm calling you out explicitly, calmly, and firmly about your behavior. And that is the best that you can do, because that inspires others. Others stay away from an adult bully because they're afraid of what happens to them. And the minute you open up the avenue, other people will join in.
That's great advice.
Yeah, I think I can only hope that we see this very soon.
Yeah.
That we, because I think that we're in a place politically in this country where we're not even talking about policy. We're not talking about anything that, none of that stuff matters. It's looking weak or not looking weak. It's damaging others or not damaging others. And it's just become the completely simplistic, dumb version of tribalism at this point. And I hope that we get past it and get to that point where people can start rewarding things, like you said, like people having conviction, like people standing up for others, people having empathy, people realizing that sympathy and vulnerability are not weaknesses, but are strengths. Ask anybody who has been in a combat scenario or anything that, like, to do something brave, you actually have to become vulnerable. You actually have to expose yourself. To stand up for other people, to show that kind of bravery, you have to be vulnerable. You don't just sit on the lines. You have to put yourself out there. You have to stick your neck out there. And I think it's something that we've, that we've kind of shied away from because of this idea that it makes you less macho. I blame the Fast and the Furious movies. I think that I'm kidding. Those movies are tight.
We'll see.
But you get what I'm saying. I went on a little rant there. I'm sorry, Jeff.
It's all good. It's all good.
But I think it's spot on. It's just spot on. Like, it's turned in a certain way, and we're dealing with a culture of bullying. For all of the bullying programs that all the schools are putting into place, we are in a culture of bullying. And so, in fact, like, all adults kind of have to be superheroes. We don't have a chance to kind of sit back. We all have a responsibility to address that and to take our part in it. And even if there's sometimes where there's moral ambiguity, there's sometimes, and that is most of the time, right? Where
hopefully not in a Man of Steel movie. Correct,
or else a lot of bad things happen.
Yeah, he could literally go around pulling arms off of people.
Right. But I think as much as it is like a wrong to take something that is black and white and turn it into gray, it's also something that's gray and turn it into black and white. When it comes time to stand up for something and there's no two sides about it, you've got to be able to put your stand down. And if there are two sides about it, to be very clear, you're putting your stand down and recognize that sometimes there is a real other side that you have to recognize, and sometimes things are just wrong. And standing up to adult bullies is more complex.
Yeah.
Because the stakes are higher. There's more lives at stake, frankly. There is more issues at stake. Stakes are greater across the board, and it's not always 100% clear.
That's true. That's really true. Wow. It's so profound. I love that. I mean, listen, we are all huge fans of comics and the superhero universes, but like the fact that like this is such a practical approach to superheroes, it's not something I've seen before personally. Jonathan, I don't know about you.
Well, I was completely getting like molly whipped by Incelbot, and you came in and you kind of showed him some what for. You kind of like came in and like, we're not going to negotiate with you, Incelbot. Yeah. And as Rico said, in the Geekscape movie, Jonathan is the hero, Katie wins Best Supporting Actress, and the antagonist, Incelbot, wins the MTV Movie Award for Best Kiss with Heidi. Oh.
Check that out. Incelbot will go like upside down.
The problem is if Incelbot kisses Heidi, he's no longer an incel. He'll be like, he may just go haywire and like a bunch of like sparks shoot out of him and he explodes. Like the buildup of these incels, I think that if they ever get what they want, they don't actually know what to do with it. I think they'll just short circuit. And Incelbot, I know you're watching. I don't think that's.
Do you have any advice for Incelbot?
I think Incelbot. I think you did. I mean, Incelbot is the bully, and I think you guys just showed him up. I mean, I haven't heard him for a while, and I think you just showed what it is to be anti-bullying as an adult, because he just got whipped. I don't know where he is, but he shut up, and that was.
Listen, I folded like a deck. I folded like a deck of cards before, like a deck chair. I folded like a deck chair before Edie came here and showed a little spine. He threatened to electrocute her in places, and so one thing I actually want to ask.
Sometimes that's fun too.
Is like, I know the book just came out, Jeff. I know the book came out August 30th. Y'all can find it on Amazon or at crimsonprotector.com. But sequel talks, and for the dumb-dumbs like me who refuse to read prose, I don't actually refuse to read prose, I'm just making a point. Is there a comic book that you could do? You think maybe you do a little short film or a little transmedia in the Crimson Protector-verse?
Love it. Love the ideas. Yes, yes, and yes.
Yeah,
I would love to do all of them.
How do you find the time to do all this? That's the question that I have, because I know social workers and they are just beleaguered.
Y'all saw it earlier in the show. Like, that is what Heidi does for a living. She works with kids. She is an ABA. Yeah. She works with kids on the spectrum. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I think he just ignores the kids, lets them like do whatever they want while he writes in the corner. I mean, how else do you do this? And he's been doing it for 12 years, Katie. You heard what he said. Oh, he's still here.
I tell you, when it's something that you love, when it's a passion project, you find the free times and you do it. And it's look, this wasn't all pure joy. There was a lot of sweat. There was a lot of blood. There was a lot of tears. Mm-hmm. And the joy that was there helped carry it through. The fact that I could take the things that I loved, helping kids, superheroes, put them all together was just something that was exciting and awesome. And part of the reason it was 12 years is because you're right. I had to steal time here and there, a Sunday here, an evening there where I didn't collapse, a lunchtime here. And it just, from the reaction that I've gotten, from the way I feel about it, it was worth it. I absolutely love every second that I spent on it.
Well, Jeff, dude, thank you for doing it. And Geekscape again, if you want to pick it up, maybe you have a middle schooler in your life or a kid who benefit from Crimson Protector, go to this little website called thecrimsonprotector.com or at Amazon. Any of these places you can find the book. It's prose. I know. I opened it up and I was like, let's get to some comics. And I was like, oh no, this is prose. Seth Eisenberg, my buddy from undergrad who recommended Jeff to the show, you tricked me. Even now, Seth is trying to get me to read anything but comic books. Seth, you're still trying to make me a better person. And to you, I say thank you, Seth. Geekscapists, if you have friends who are like, people who are like, this person needs to like have an audience, let's get them on Geekscape. I love it. I love having Jeff here. And to Seth and Jeff, I got to tell you, happy early Rosh Hashanah. Happy early Yom Kippur. We're getting into the weekends with the Jewish holidays. And you know what? Maybe a little happy Kol Nidre. And there's a fourth one. I got this. It's don't tell me. It's Kol Nidre Yizkor Nila. I nailed it. Okay.
Nailed it.
You didn't learn anything from going to Penn. Anyway, Seth, if you're listening, I really thank you for bringing Jeff to my attention, and I want all y'all to go to this little website I just put up on this. I'm talking to you about thecrimsonprotector.com and pick up this book.